Hello, it's Rob B here from the Property Podcast, and I'm with Rob D. It's episode 219, which is just a number. Your age is just a number, but our ages should determine on how we invest in property. So this week, we look at exactly that.
Yes, we do. Welcome to the Property Podcast. Thank you for joining us. Like Rob said, we're looking at how to invest at your current age, and we're joined by a cast of colourful characters to help us do exactly that. And if you've listened to the show before, you'll be expecting a news story and a resource of the week, and you will not be disappointed. We've got both of those for you. First, though, before we get into all that, a couple of news stories from us. First of all, it's that time again. Meetups are coming around next week. They seem to come faster every month. Next week is going to be the first Thursday of the month. That means it is Meetup Day. We've got over 40 meetups going on all over the shop, including new ones in Doncaster, Stoke-on-Trent and Stockholm. So if you are near any of those places or any of the 37 plus others, all you need to do is go over to thepropertyhub.net/meetups, book your free ticket, go along, have a great time, meet lots of property folk, have some interesting and useful discussions. It's completely free, so make sure you get along. Also, Rob, as if the meetups weren't enough, we've got another get-together of a different kind coming up.
We have. We don't do a very good job of informing people of what we do because we just like to focus on the education. So we did this last year and it proved very, very successful. All the tickets went in 24 hours. What is it? It's an open day. It's an open day to find out more about RMP Property and Yellow Lettings, the companies we run. It's going to be run on the 24th of June, a morning session and an afternoon session. And we've created it for people who've had the curiosity about, well, what do the Robs do? What are their businesses? Should I work with them? This is for you. So how does it work? Tickets went really quickly last time, as we explained. So you need to go to propertyhub.net/open day and select yourself a ticket. Now, they are £5, and this is for two reasons. One, we got oversubscribed last time, and we just want to make sure that people who want to learn about the businesses can do and don't miss out. So we make it a £5. But two, all that money goes to charity. So we run the event, we pay for all that, and the £5, every single penny of it goes to charity. So this isn't some greedy money-making technique by Rob and Rob. No, everybody wins with this one. You learn, we present, and charity wins. So that's on the 24th of June. Get along to propertyhub.net/open day, pick a morning or afternoon slot, and we look forward to telling you all about our businesses across the morning and the afternoon. Remember, you don't need to go to both sessions. They will be repeated and what happens. We'll also have a solicitor there explaining how the conveyancing process works, and we'll have a mortgage broker as well talking about how mortgages work. So if you've ever been interested in what RMP Property do or Yellow Lettings do, now's your chance. We don't need to bank on it about it on the podcast. You can just go to thepropertyhub.net/open day. Don't dawdle though. All 200 tickets last time went in 24 hours. So this is the first time we're announcing it publicly, so get along to that link. Should be a fun day, Rob.
It definitely should. Very much looking forward to it. That link again, thepropertyhub.net/open day. Okay, so just before we get into our main topic, just time for a quick news story. And this is a quick one, but shock horror, this is another bit of good news. This is our second good news story for landlords in as many weeks.
What's going on?
Well, what's going on is an election's coming up and it's distracted everyone, so they haven't got around to doing one of the bad things we didn't want them to do. So in the last budget, it was announced that the tax-free dividend allowance would be reduced from £5,000 to £2,000. So if you've got properties held within a company and you want to extract some of that money as dividends, previously you could get the first £5,000 tax-free. It was going to be going down from April 2018 to £2,000. At the moment, that has been dropped. However, the only reason that it's been dropped is they just haven't had time to get it through before it all kicked off with the election. So a load of stuff has been taken out of the finance bill because there just wasn't time. But this might be resurrected after the election, depending on what goes on, who's in power and so on. But for now, that £5,000 allowance stays as it is.
If you are interested in the election, listen up at the end of the show. We've got some news for you. But that's the end of the show. We are just getting started. And this week's topic, well, we're going to look at how you should invest at your current age. Because how you invest at someone in their early 20s compared to someone in their late 60s, for example, is going to be completely different. So each week we talk about how to invest, but does it apply to you? So this week we're going to make it apply to you. And as Rob said, we've got some special characters roped in to help us through this journey. We're going to look at each stage of your investment life cycle and how you possibly should invest, but also how not to invest. So, Rob, who should we start with?
Okay, I think I can see our first guest coming through the door now. And whoa, watch out, it's Wild William.
So Wild William, he's a character, full of life, full of enthusiasm, loves a night out. Yeah, I'm sure we all can identify with Wild William at some point in our lives. Now, Wild William is often a young investor. He's found property, he may have read Rich Dad Poor Dad for the first time, seen a few YouTube videos, got inspired by Bill Gates, Elon Musk, Richard Branson, wants to take over the world, be a property mogul, and he's going to do it fast. Well, some Wild Williams succeed, but unfortunately most don't. Many get burned, many get sold big hopes and dreams, and there's many people in property who will take advantage of Wild William because they can sense the enthusiasm, they can sense that he has big hopes and ambitions, and they're going to sap it. They're going to get what little money he has, take him to the cleaners, and destroy his dreams. Some may bounce back, many will give up on property forever. So, Wild William is our first character. Rob, what should Wild William do? If people identify with Wild William a little bit in themselves, what should they be doing?
Well, first of all, if you are interested in property early in life, that is a wonderful thing. You've got time on your side, and that is fantastic. You've got all this time to learn, to invest, for the gains to compound, lots of property cycles in your lifetime. It's a brilliant thing, but calm yourself down. If you go in all guns blazing, you could easily, like Rob said, find yourself taken advantage of or find yourself making mistakes because there's just a lot that you don't know yet, and chances are you don't know what you don't know. So I would say the first thing to do is don't spend any money on anything. That includes property and it includes courses until you've had a period of time of really educating yourself. So if you have just had this inspiration, whether it's from a book or a family member or whatever else, and you're really, really excited, ban yourself from spending any money on education or from going out and buying a property if indeed you can. Don't dampen down your enthusiasm, just spend that time learning, and so you're putting yourself in a better position for when you do get started. And there's lots of different ways you can learn. There's loads of free educational stuff. You can also take advantage of the fact that maybe if you are very young, you don't have many commitments, you might be living at home for free or cheap, then that means that you might have time, which a lot of other people don't have. So harness that enthusiasm. Go and put yourself to work. Volunteer to work for other investors or just spend your time haranguing them. Learn everything that you possibly can. Get as much hands-on experience as you can without rushing head on into something yourself. And you'll find that when you do come out of that kind of self-imposed holding area before you're let out into the property world, you will do so much better and you will avoid some of the mistakes that your peers will be making.
Well, Rob, this is such a convenient coincidence because through the door has walked Sensible Sam. Now, Sensible Sam is young.
Sounds like a good influence.
Yeah, very much so. William meets Sam. Sam's sensible. Sam is young, but Sam realises that she's got time on her side. So Sam is going to take it easy. She's going to put her plans together. She's going to be in property for the long term. Doesn't really matter what approach she takes. If she goes professional buy-to-let, if she goes HMOs or something else, Sam's going to put plans. She knows she's got time on her side. She knows she's not going to be doing a get-rich-quick scheme through property. But Sensible Sam will one day become super wealthy Sam because Sam's starting young. Not many people are like Sam when they're young. I know I wasn't like that in my early 20s. It took me until my late 20s before I became switched on. But somebody like Sensible Sam, investing from a young age, will do very, very well in the long term if they stick to their plans and stay disciplined. And have patience. So, William, follow Sam and you'll both be okay.
Okay, so that is early life covered off. And now we're moving towards, literally and figuratively, we're moving towards midlife. We both are. And we're moving towards talking about it with regard to a couple of characters who you'll encounter when it comes to investing in midlife. First one I can see coming through the door now, Rob, is Make It Back Marge.
Make It Back Marge. There's a hunger in her eyes, but also a hint of desperation. Marge has got a little bit on in life. She's probably had a good time in her youth. Marge has had fun, but she spent all her money having that fun, and now she wants to make up for lost time. She's in a job she doesn't like, unfortunately, and she wants to get out fast. So Make It Back Marge is going to go on all the courses. She's learned that she can retire from property in a year with no money, apparently, and she's going to go for it and go for it hard. She's got all the dreams, the ambition. She's motivated. She's got a different type of motivation to William because she's angry. She's angry with herself, with some of the mistakes she's made, and she's angry with the job she's in. But she's going to change it. She's watched a few YouTube videos. She's read a few motivational books. She's going to take out some credit cards, and she's going to make it happen. Whoa. If you identify with Marge, a bit like William, you need to stop. Midlife, you've got plenty of time. Give it some patience. If you hate your job, change it. You may say, oh, that sounds easy to you, Rob. I can't. You can. There's pretty much no excuse. If you don't like your job, change it. Property is not going to get you out of your job in a couple of years' time if you have no cash. It doesn't happen. If you could do that, create a lifetime income with no money, Rob and I wouldn't be doing a podcast. We'd just be doing this formula day in, day out. But that formula doesn't exist. People sell courses on it because they make money from the courses, not because they can do it. So make it back, Marge. Come on, you're sensible. You've got a bit of wisdom now. You're midlife. You know realistically in your heart of hearts that it can't be done. But you just want to believe it. But you need to take advice from a guy who's pretty switched on. This guy's walking through the door now, Rob. It's Planning Pete. And Planning Pete, he's getting to that point of life where he's thinking about the future. He's thinking about retirement. He's thinking about possibly children, or he may even have some. And he's thinking, right, I want to put them right. I want to put myself right financially, and I'm going to do it.
Yeah, the thing about Pete is he's not in too much of a rush. He's got a job that maybe he's not in love with. He doesn't want to do it forever, but he's happy there. He's got some kind of assets behind him. He might have been a bit of a wild William in younger years, but he's had a little bit of time to turn it around. So he's got some money to play with, and he's not obsessed with spending that money as quickly as possible. He knows that he's got to take what he's got and turn that into something meaningful for the future for him and the family that he either has or hopes to have in the future. Now, I hear from a lot of Planning Petes. I get a lot of emails from people like all the characters who we've talked about, but I'd say the majority are probably Planning Petes. These are people who've had some sort of early to midlife realization that they need something else rather than just their job. And that is fantastic because we've done episodes on the pensions crisis before and various other things. You do need something other than just a job. Planning Pete has decided it's property. He's maybe read a book on it. He's maybe listened to a few podcasts. He's decided property's for him, but because of his nature, because he wants to plan, he's not going to rush in. He knows that he's got to figure it all out. And there's often a lot of angst around it. Whereas Marge is just excited to go in and do everything and get herself to financial freedom, Pete's kind of feeling a bit overwhelmed by the whole thing because he knows what he wants to do. He knows that it's sort of possible, but he doesn't know exactly how he's going to put it together. So although Pete's actually in a better position than everyone else who we've encountered so far, he's often the most nervous and the most anxious about the whole thing. So Rob, what advice could we give to Pete?
Well, I've got a feeling Pete would enjoy the property podcast. Normal, rational views about property, talking about the long term, without any get-rich-quick dreams and shams. Planning Pete, he's our type of guy. So what should Planning Pete be doing? Well, Planning Pete needs to get very clear on his goals. And he probably should start, Rob, by going on the free course on the propertyhub.net and learning about goal setting. There's a goal setting course there that you can go on. Now, once Pete's set clear goals, he then needs to work on his strategy. He should possibly do a bit of networking, look at the Property Hub again, look at our strategy-related courses, again, all free. Go to the Property Podcast. We've got a great search bar. Type in strategy there. Look at all the different strategies and see what appeals to him. Now, Pete needs to be very honest with himself. He needs to realise what he can and can't do. If Pete's time poor, then he shouldn't be refurbing HMOs. That's not going to be Pete's plan. But if he has time, maybe that is. But Pete needs to get clear with his goals, clear with his starting point, build out a strategy based on his life circumstances right now and his experience and skill set, and Pete will be fine. I've got big hopes for Pete. Sensible Sam? Well, Sensible Sam could be incredibly wealthy in the future, but Planning Pete can not only set himself up financially in the future, he can also set up future generations. I like Planning Pete. Planning Pete's a good guy. Maybe, Rob, because I see a little bit of him in ourselves. And that's why I'm extremely biased.
Well, I think he'll do well too. I think the biggest risk for someone like Pete is possibly just not quite getting around to doing it. because his nature is to research and maybe he never quite gets to the point of being comfortable. So hopefully he'll know when his plan is good enough and actually get into action. And if he does, then he'll have a better time later in life than our final guest, and that is Income Ingrid.
Yeah, Ingrid just walked in and she's not looking too happy. But don't worry, Ingrid, at least you're doing something about it. Well, what's happened? Well, Ingrid's got to later in life and realised that her pension isn't all that. She was promised a lot and the pension has delivered a little. And I think there's going to be many people like Ingrid in the future because, unfortunately, pensions are getting worse and worse. So while there's quite a few in her club right now, in the future there'll be many more. But there's still hope. Income Ingrid can still do something. It's not like it's doom and gloom and she can't do anything about it. But what she shouldn't be doing is following the same sort of path as Sensible Sam and Planning Pete. Ingrid actually has to be a little bit more aggressive and focus on income rather than growth. Now, for most people in property investment in early and midlife, you want to be focusing on long-term capital growth because that's where the wealth is. Of course, you need income in the short term, cash flow is king, blah, 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 but it's not going to make you wealthy. But Ingrid, it doesn't really matter in 20 years' time if her portfolio has gone up dramatically in value because Ingrid needs to retire soon. And that capital growth in the future isn't going to pay the bills soon. So Ingrid needs to look at high-income properties. She needs to look at possibly areas where the yield is higher, possibly a slightly more challenging tenant mix, but she'll have to go there. Or HMOs, could have it professionally managed, but find someone you can partner with if you've not done it before, if you've not got that confidence. It's going to be a bit of hard work, but if Ingrid puts the effort in, builds connections, gets out of her comfort zone, there's still a good chance she could do a lot better than her pension. So, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying all pensions are awful, but there are many that are, and Ingrid's in that boat, so Ingrid needs to do something about it.
Ingrid's going to have some tough decisions to make, because in order to maximise ROI, she might be wanting to use mortgages, but might be uncomfortable with taking on more debt later in life. In order to make that debt tax efficient, she might be wanting to do it within a company, which involves a whole lot more learning. And she might also be thinking about how to pass these assets on in the future. And there's a lot to think about there as well. She might also be in the situation of having significant equity in her house, which could be an advantage. She might not have as much as she wanted in terms of cash. She might not be able to access as much of a pension as she'd want, but she could find that she's got a lot of equity in her property. Then she's got a very difficult decision about should she downsize from her own home to release cash to invest? Should she be remortgaging, increasing the mortgage on her own home? It's going to be scary. There's going to be a lot to think about. There might be a few sleepless nights with the brain whirring and going through all the options, but she is going to be a lot better off once she's been through this than her peers who don't make that leap and just rely on whatever pension provision they've got. It would have been better if she'd thought about it earlier and been more of a planning Pete, but it is possible to turn it around and get that income and have not only a better retirement, but also have a better asset base to pass on to future generations as well.
So there we have it. We've been through all areas of the life cycle. And who do you identify with? Because the chances are you may not be exactly like one of those characters, but you're probably similar to at least one. So if you are that character, look at the advice we've given on what you should be doing if you're in that position right now. And let us know. Go to the show notes where you'll find a link to the forum where you can leave your comments. So this week, the show notes are at thepropertyhub.net/investing ages. That's thepropertyhub.net/investing ages. Get all the links that we've talked about today and a link to the forum where you can give us your comments and your viewpoints. And thank you to everybody who's left comments recently, particularly a couple of weeks ago, the Secret Property Boom episode, which Rob broke our download records in the first week. So that was pretty special too. So thank you for everybody who listened and thank you for everybody who commented.
Yes, thank you to you. And we also like to thank publicly everyone who leaves us an iTunes review. We read out at least one every week. This week, of course, is no different. Rob, who's left us a review this week? And is it a good one?
Oh, it is, Rob. Believe it or not, it's 5 stars. Hurrah!
Hey.
So this week, thank you to Saf. And Saf says, Dear Rob and Rob, thank you so much for the podcast. It's allowed me to understand not just the property market, but also helped me to set some achievable, short and long-term life goals. Your podcast, in addition to Meaningful Money podcast and The Minimalists, have made a significant impact on my day-to-day life. Keep up the great work, guys. Let's have another one, Rob, as well. And Cityscape says, "Hi guys, your podcast is awesome. Thanks to you, I've now my first rental property and I'm looking forward to getting the next one soon. The podcast gives me all the info I need, keeps me up to date with the latest property news and always makes my daily commute so much more interesting. Cheers guys, Simon." Lovely. Well, thank you, Saf. Thank you, Simon. We appreciate you battling through iTunes to leave us a review. It makes us very happy and very happy to see you're taking action too, the pair of you. So well done.
Couple of planning Pete's on our hands there, I think. Very good. Okay, so in a minute, we'll tell you what's coming up next week. But before we do, just time for a resource of the week. And this one you'll like if you're a geeky Graham. This is propertydata.co.uk. Chances are this was sent to me by someone, but I don't know who. So if it was you, thank you and sorry. Propertydata.co.uk. As the name suggests, it's a place where you can get data about property. We've talked about similar ones in the past, but this is pretty cool. You pop in a postcode, you can tweak the area so you can get the exact area that you're interested in, and then it will come up with all kinds of information about selling prices, about capital growth, about demographics, and all that kind of thing. Another interesting thing is you can search for yield hotspots and growth hotspots. So you can go on there and it'll show you where in the country it thinks has the best yield and growth prospects. Now, bear in mind, this is all data that's automatically pulled in, I think, from Zoopla. So it's not going to be 100%. It's not going to be enough for you to base an investment on, nowhere near. But it might be an interesting place for you to either start your search or to see if you can validate some of the things that you've noticed independently. So that's propertydata.co.uk.
Yeah, it looks really interesting. It'd be great if you could change the date ranges on them and a few other bits and pieces. But as a start, this website looks really promising and really interesting. There used to be another website like this which stopped being updated, which was a shame. So I think it was called Don't Bet to Let or something like that. But this seems to be a new, modern, fresh version of it. Looks really interesting. Some of the yield areas don't surprise me whatsoever. But go to the show notes this week, as we said, thepropertyhub.net/investingages, and you'll get the link to that resource. Okay, so Rob, next week we're going to lose at least 2/3 of our listeners by talking about the election and what property investors should do about it.
Yes, we are. We're going to have a strong and stable podcast. And I can't think of any of the other phrases right now. But yeah, we're going to read the property sections of the manifesto so you don't have to. We're not going to tell you who to vote for. The election, of course, is about far more than just property. But it's going to be interesting to see what the different parties have in mind when it comes to property and the different ideas that they've got. So we're going to be going through all of that next week.
We are indeed. But before next Thursday, we'll be back with Ask Rob and Rob on Tuesday. And just a reminder, the tickets went quickly last time, so you have been warned. If you've ever wondered, what do Rob and Rob do outside of podcasting and the Property Hub? What do their businesses get up to? And how do they fill their time? Well, we're not on the beach, we are running businesses. And if you'd like to understand what they do and how they can help you, we don't talk about them on the podcast, but we will talk about them on our open day. It's the 24th of June. You can pick a morning or afternoon slot. Go to thepropertyhub.net/open day. That's thepropertyhub.net/open day. Get yourself a ticket. It's only a £5. All the money goes to charity, and you get at least a coffee or two out of it and some biscuits. So at the very least, you'll break even on your coffee. You might learn something and meet us, which I don't know if is a good or a bad thing, but you can decide. Hopefully, we'll see many of you there on the 24th. Hopefully, we'll see many of you at the meetups next week. But until then, have fun, everyone. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thanks for listening to the Property Podcast. For show notes, all our past episodes, and to leave a review, go to thepropertyhub.net/podcast.